The Manhattan Project remains one of history's most clandestine and impactful scientific endeavors. This was the ultra-secret program through which the United States aimed to build the first atomic bomb. Its creation was set against the backdrop of the most devastating global conflict the world had ever seen. Think of the sheer scale involved in mobilizing a nation's top resources for a single, terrifying goal. It truly represents a pivotal moment where scientific discovery intersected with massive geopolitical power. The entire operation was shrouded in layers of secrecy, from start to finish. We are diving into the story of how fear fueled the dawn of the nuclear age. The entire initiative was fundamentally driven by a pervasive sense of dread about German capabilities. It all stemmed from the groundbreaking discovery of nuclear fission back in 1938. Scientists understood the horrifying implications of splitting the atom in the wrong hands. The fear was simple, that Nazi Germany might already be weaponizing this incredible new power. It was a race against an enemy perceived as technologically ruthless. This initial spark of anxiety set the wheels of the world's largest secret project into motion. Even today, the context might seem exaggerated, but the threat was very real to those involved. Many brilliant Jewish physicists had already fled the escalating danger across Europe. These immigrants had firsthand, harrowing knowledge of the scientific talent Hitler controlled. They knew intimately the dedication and intellectual power dedicated to the Reich's war machine. Their testimony provided undeniable proof that this scientific threat was not theoretical. This urgent testimony from refugees formed a critical early justification for massive U.S. investment. The iconic figure of Albert Einstein played an indirect but crucial introductory role. Despite being a committed lifelong pacifist, he felt compelled to act on the impending danger. He co-signed a now famous letter directed to President Franklin D. Roosevelt. This correspondence served as a stark and official warning about the potential atomic weapon. It was the letter that ultimately convinced the U.S. government to seriously explore this path. There's a fascinating irony in Einstein's involvement, or rather, his lack thereof. Curiously, the man whose warning initiated everything never directly worked on the weapon itself. He was deemed too much of a security risk to participate in the day-to-day classified work. This decision highlights the intense paranoia and rigid security protocols of the era. Even his immense intellect couldn't override the security clearance concerns. It remains a curious footnote that the project's spark plug was kept on the sidelines. From that initial warning, the project rapidly ballooned into an unprecedented logistical undertaking. It ultimately commanded a workforce exceeding 130,000 dedicated personnel. These thousands of employees were spread across numerous entirely secret, purpose-built cities. Imagine coordinating that many people on a project whose final purpose was largely unknown to them. The sheer administrative feat required to manage such a vast, silent empire was staggering. The scale of this mobilization dwarfed almost every other wartime industrial effort. Take the example of Oak Ridge, Tennessee, a location that simply did not officially exist on any map. This hidden city was constructed seemingly overnight to serve the project's needs. Within its borders, communities thrived with all the normal amenities of life. You would find supermarkets stocked, churches holding services, and schools educating children there. Yet, to the outside world, this entire sprawling town was a phantom location. It was a surreal existence, living a completely normal life while building the ultimate weapon. The commitment to operational security meant that even residents were often kept in the dark. Perhaps the most incredible aspect was the level of compartmentalization required for success. The vast majority of those employed had absolutely no idea what they were actually contributing to. Consider the countless factory workers, mostly women, performing repetitive tasks daily. Many operators spent endless hours turning dials and monitoring gauges without context. They were unknowingly controlling the complex machinery necessary for uranium enrichment. This ignorance was a deliberate strategy to prevent leaks of critical technical information. Their essential labor pushed the science forward, one unnoticed adjustment at a time. It's a powerful testament to the dedication found at every level of the secret hierarchy. One surprising detail reveals the primitive safety measures at the project's outset. To detect potential radiation leaks, they employed a technique borrowed straight from coal mining. Believe it or not, they used live canaries as a biological early warning system. This low-tech solution was necessary because sufficiently precise measurement equipment was not yet available. The fate of these small birds served as a chilling barometer for human safety in hazardous zones. The intellectual heart of the project was nestled in Los Alamos, New Mexico. Here, J. Robert Oppenheimer led a collection of the world's most brilliant theoretical physicists. This elite team was tasked with the monumental challenge of transforming theory into a functional weapon. They ultimately developed two fundamentally different atomic bomb designs, based on available materials. One design, named Little Boy, was based on enriched uranium, -235. The second design, Fat Man, utilized the much more complex plutonium, -239 core. The engineering required to bridge the gap between laboratory calculations and physical reality was immense. The plutonium device presented far greater engineering hurdles due to material characteristics. Plutonium proved to be an incredibly temperamental and highly unstable element to work with. Even a minor miscalculation in the assembly process carried catastrophic risks. This instability meant the component was inherently prone to premature detonation. These tragic events are now chillingly referred to as the Demon Core accidents. A specific sphere of plutonium became notorious for near-criticality events during handling. In separate incidents involving this core, two dedicated scientists tragically lost their lives. These fatalities resulted from small experimental errors that allowed the fissile material to briefly go supercritical. On the 16th of July, 1945, the world witnessed the Trinity test, history's very first nuclear explosion. The sudden release of energy was unlike anything humanity had ever experienced before. It marked the definitive transition from theoretical physics into destructive reality. This singular moment forever changed the meaning of destructive potential. The initial flash of light was so incredibly bright, observers reported lasting visual effects. One woman, hundreds of miles away in Albuquerque, initially believed a massive meteor had struck the Earth. The intense luminosity burned images onto the retinas of those watching from a distance. Soldiers stationed at the observation points described an even more shocking phenomenon. They reported being able to see the bones within their own hands through the blinding flash. It was as if an instant, terrifying X-ray had illuminated their entire physical forms. The sheer power unleashed was almost incomprehensible to the human senses. Following the successful test, the deployed weapons were swiftly readied for combat use. In August of that same year, the two distinct bombs were dropped on Japanese cities. The devastation rained down upon Hiroshima and then Nagasaki. A staggering piece of operational history relates specifically to the weapon used on Hiroshima. It turns out that the Little Boy device had never actually been tested prior to deployment. The scientific team made a critical decision based purely on the confidence in their simpler design. They relied on the underlying physics calculations to guarantee its functionality in the field. Fortunately, for the project's immediate objective, that fundamental trust in science proved correct. And, as history grimly records, the untested mechanism functioned exactly as predicted. The implications of this immediate success reshaped the remainder of the war and the century to follow. With the war's conclusion, the world immediately entered the daunting nuclear age. This new era was defined by the terrifying accumulation of atomic arsenals across the globe. Superpowers rapidly engaged in a tense, prolonged standoff known as the Cold War. At its height, estimates suggested humanity possessed enough destructive payload to erase the planet multiple times over. The abstract concept of mutually assured destruction became a daily geopolitical reality. This precarious balance of terror defined international relations for decades. The legacy of the Manhattan Project extends far beyond the events of 1945. It fundamentally and irrevocably altered the nature of warfare itself. More profoundly, it forever redefined the relationship between pure scientific discovery and ultimate governmental power. The scientists involved were immediately grappling with the immense moral weight of their creation. It forced humanity to confront the extent of its own potential for self-destruction. The project remains a profound, complex case study in scientific responsibility.